Hi everybody. Not sure if anyone's on yet. The chat is not exactly showing up. Let's see. Oh, there we go.
Alright, so as usual I can't see anything. Are we actually talking to anyone?
Oh look. Hello, Anonymous.
Ah, Anonymous! So glad you're here.
Glad we're not just talking to no one in particular. So if you're at the last live stream, then we did already introduce ourselves, but we can do it again.
It could be new, so.
Right.
I'm Shay.
And I'm Audrey. I'm 17, and we're both the co-founders of Fountain of Youth Productions. Hello, Emily B. So basically the idea here is, since it's September 1st, yeah, we can't believe it either. It really went...
Just started.
Yeah, it went really, really fast. But the idea is to just sort of wrap up, talk about our experience a little bit this summer, and give you some tips for going forward throughout the year when we won't be sending out regular emails or tips, but we can give you some advice now and sort of what happens after you have your script. You know, what are your options? Because as we know, a novel, you know, people read a novel. It's a finished product, but a script is more like a blueprint. It's never going to be finished. It's never just going to sit on a shelf. So the end product is the film. So you have to figure out if you want your script to be produced and how you can go about doing that. So we'll probably talk a little bit about that. And also, we're here for your questions, and if you want to share any of your comments on the program, experiences, problems with screenwriting issue, whatever we can do to help, whatever other people here can do to help, if there are other people here, hopefully.
So we've got two people, right?
Well, one person.
Oh, one person.
Is chatting, but I'm trying to figure out.
Okay, well, hi, one person.
Emily, do you have any particular questions we can answer while we wait for some more people to show up?
Or feedback, or, anything you want to say. Yes, sir. Our time is yours right now.
Let me just post. Make sure everybody knows that we're live.
It's funny, I never thought about that before, but when you say we're live, it's like as opposed to what? Being dead?
Well, that would be we're alive.
Yeah, but there are situations you'd say live instead of alive. Totally irrelevant, but... Alright, well, somebody's posting something, but I don't have my glasses,
okay, here
so
we
I can't
go.
see it.
Well, I have an idea for a screenplay to enter into the contest. That's good.
Great.
So I'm guessing idea means you haven't written it, which is fine. You still have a month. Do you have any idea if you just haven't started yet, or if you're stuck on a certain point? Because I know that it can be very slow in the beginning, especially when you're just planning everything out, and sometimes you can plan. We know this from experience, that you can just keep planning and you put off actually putting words on the paper, and then, at a certain point, it's just...
Oh, that doesn't sound familiar at all. I mean...
I'll read it just to let you know why I'm repeating everything. Is Shay wears glasses and they have a reflection, so
yeah,
I made her take them off.
It looks very funny if I wear them now, but I literally can't see a thing.
I know it may be different for everyone, but what do you consider an appropriate pace for writing a first draft of a screenplay in a month? So again, it would determine... it would depend on how long the script was. If we're talking about the contest, which is a maximum of 20 pages, if we say you're writing about 15 to 20 pages, really depends on how much you have planned out. Like for one of the first scripts I wrote, it just sort of came to me. I didn't really do much planning, and I sat down and really wrote. This was Countdown. I really just wrote it out, and that one went through a lot of drafts. So the timing was in the rewriting, not in the first draft.
Yeah, I was just going to add, also how much time do you want to spend in editing? Because how much time you're allotting, like how many pages you have to write per day or per week or whatever, also, changes if for how much time you want to give to once you've technically finished it, but it's not actually ready.
Yeah.
Are you giving yourself a few days for that? Are you giving yourself a week for that?
Right.
How much time do you think you're going to need? How fleshed out is the idea?
And also you should keep in mind that, like, when you're writing, at least for me, when I'm writing like a short story or a novel, every word is very important because the reader will be reading that. But a lot of times when I'm writing a first draft, I just sort of like, it doesn't maybe read so well, but I get out all my ideas, the dialogue, and then I can fix, tweak little sentences if they're awkward or weirdly written later, but it's just description, so it's not like the character is going to be saying that. You do want to edit that later to make sure that it comes off concisely and the person that will be reading your script will understand exactly, what's in your head. But on the first draft, sometimes you just need to write entirely what's in your head and whatever comes out, especially about description.
Sometimes I know if I'm writing anything, whether it's screenwriting or just it could be an email that I'm sending the next day, whatever it is. If something's like bugging me, like I want to put that in, but no, that's gonna be weird. But I know it's like an idea I have in my head. I'll just write it and then sleep on it, come to the next day and see, okay, can I actually refine that to get what I liked about it without having, or does it seem as weird the next day? So.
Also, I should add, so I talked about one of the first scripts I wrote, how I wrote the first draft really quickly. A later one that we were working on together for a while, the letter one, it took forever to get a first draft, partly because it was
finished.
It is, yeah.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, we did.
I
That
was
was so long ago, I can't
it.
even remember exactly where we ended up on it.
It needs edits, but the first draft is out. Partly because there was a lot of different characters, a lot of different storylines, so it was a little bit complicated. And it was sort of like writing like 10 different short films into one, so it was its own case, but that took me a really, really, really long time to get out, and finally, sometimes your brain is like, it's pushing you, I should plan more, I don't know, maybe I'll do that later. And sometimes you just have to force yourself to sit down and just get it out.
There's a great saying, don't let perfection be the enemy of good. If you're determined you're not going to write it, and you've got to have it perfect, and you're going to have it perfectly planned out, written notes, and all this stuff, you're never going to write it. I mean, unless you actually can do that, at which point, great for you. But if it's a year later and your contest was, this month, that's not going to happen. So I would definitely say, just write. I mean, do a responsible amount of planning, but just write it, because it's so much easier to edit.
Even if you don't have all the plot elements out, you don't have to write it in order, If you have a particular scene that really stood out to you, or was even the first idea you had, a particular thing, write that scene, get in the mind of the character, get in the scene, get in the world of the story, and that might inspire you too, because you have something written.
Sometimes idea comes to you better than too, if all of it isn't fully fleshed out, or you're feeling like you kind of understand the character, but not maybe, or whatever it is, it's not fully fleshed out. If you've got this one thing that is, then if you write that out, then as you're writing it, things become more clear to you.
There are a lot of transitions from location to location. I'm not quite sure how to set that up. Like, if a girl gets off a bus and walks to her aunt's house, how would I set that up? Yeah, that's a good question. screenwriters have different ways of doing it, and there isn't really a set, this is what you must do, and you sort of have to figure out, it depends how you think, but if you think more like, how would I be watching this in a movie, you would think, yeah, so if she's on the bus, that would be interior bus, because that is inside. So if the camera's in the bus, that would be inside the bus. If we're outside and we're watching her step off the bus and we never are actually in the bus, then I would say that's an exterior, and the bus is just like a prop in the scene. And then I think it's pretty, if you're saying that she's walking, it's pretty obvious that we're going to be following her, and you don't need to change locations unless it's specifically a different place, like she comes to a park and she decides to look in, like that would be a specific place change. But if she's just walking down the street to her aunt's house, then we wouldn't have to change until we wouldn't have to change the slug line, the scene heading, until she actually goes into her aunt's house. You would just explain it in the action that she's walking, and then we see the aunt's house, and so on. So yeah, you can figure out how much you want to tell of that, but usually try to think of, like, is this a separate location? Is this needed for the reader to know that we're changing places here, or is it just like obvious that she's walking in different places? So that would be my answer. Yeah. Anything else to add? It's a pretty specific question, I guess.
No, really. You covered it.
So, is anyone else? I think we have another person joining us.
Hello, another person. Who is it?
They didn't comment.
Okay, haven't commented. Okay, so if you didn't catch this earlier, I'm not wearing my glasses, which I need to see the computer because they have like a glare and it looks weird on the screen. So I can't see anything. So Audrey will be repeating everything you write, and I might say, huh? You see me going like this? It's because I can't see anything.
So anyway, today we just sent out a survey that hopefully everyone will take, just sort of to gauge, what your experiences were, and for the future, so we can improve our programs. And then we also have some certificates of participation that we can give to people that complete the survey. Participation in the program, not in the survey. That would be kind of funny. Congratulations!
You took a survey!
Yeah, no. And so we were just going to talk a little bit about so we talked about that the script is not the finished product. The finished product is the movie that hopefully lots of people will see. And so what are your options for making that happen? You have pretty much 3 options. One, the script doesn't get produced into a movie, and you decide to submit it to script contests, to film festivals. Basically, that's
anything that will actually
what you can do. Some
script.
youth arts contests have script categories. Some writing contests have script categories. So if you're into writing contests, you can look, especially if they have options for that. And the second option is to produce the film yourself, which is what we do. So we have the most experience in that area, and we're definitely open to any questions you might have about how to go about doing this.
Now, or if you realize you want to do that later, and then like, oh wait, how do I do this? We're always available through email or on Facebook.
Right.
Just reach out. We'd love to help you with that.
Yeah. So a lot of writers nowadays are doing that themselves, because has become harder and harder to get original scripts produced, by Hollywood, and to get funding. If you go to the movies, you'll notice everything is sequels or based on books. We're not in such a great time for selling original scripts, especially from people that don't have previous scripts sold. So it is a hard thing to break into, which is why a lot of writers now are just sort of taking initiative and producing their own scripts and either directing it or producing it and hiring a director, but basically spearheading that to get it going.
Which is a nice option too, because then you don't
have
have
control.
to watch you don't have to watch someone else mess with your baby. You're like, no, but I saw it this way. You get to really see your vision come to life. So it's a lot of more hard work, but it's a fun option.
What's the best way to get involved in the general filmmaking industry? That's a good, hard question. But yeah.
Well, when you say general filmmaking, do you want to be a little more specific? Is there, do you mean you want to be a director? Do you mean you want to be a producer? Do you mean you just want to be around film sets? Is there something more specific there?
Yeah, if you can specify exactly what you'd be interested in, then we can help more. But if we're talking just generally, the best thing you can do is get experience. And usually that means starting at the bottom and being a production assistant or an intern or working for free on small film sets, locally filmed, really, really independent, low budget stuff in your area.
Volunteer and be good at it. Show yourself to be reliable, so that then people will be like, oh, you're doing a film? I know someone who's great. Or it gives you better access. Or you can also, I guess, start making your own films to get a little experience there too.
That's true, yeah. Always, fool around in whatever way you can, even if it's just like your iPhone. And I mean, everybody has iPhone and iMovie now, and
or some equivalent,
or whatever you have. It's good to fool around with that. And if also, some people might wonder how you would find out about these local productions or production companies, and I found the great way to find out about your local film industry, because it's not just Hollywood. We're not talking about Hollywood. We're not talking about New York. We live in Massachusetts, and there is actually a very nice and supportive film community here, right in Boston. And we've gone to a lot of events, and it's a pretty tight-knit community, so you get to know certain people, and you'll see them at like a premiere, and then you'll see them at a class or something. And the way I found my way into that was through Facebook groups. They are very, very helpful if you're on Facebook. Of course, use caution, but if you can join, just look up like film industry in whatever place you live in, and a lot of times they have groups, like for us, there's like New England filmmakers, there's Boston movie producers, directors, things like that. New England Filmmakers Network. There's all these different kind of.
If you're interested in acting, then you'll find a lot for kids there too, because
True.
that is something that kids do, and that might even be
There's
another
a lot
way
of casting
to
groups, yeah.
network, within a a space a little more friendly towards kids. But basically, network. Just anytime you want to break into anything, network.
She says, for me, I just want to be involved in the creation of a movie in some way. In the fall, I'm going to be a production assistant. Well, that's a great start for you. Yeah, that's really the best advice I can give you, is get experience in any way you can, whether that's being a production assistant, going to any kind of events in your area, whether that's you can find film premieres, networking events. Like we just went to one. There's it's called the 48-Hour Film Project, and I think it's international, but it might be national just in the U.S. And this might actually be a great way to get involved.
Yeah,
as well.
anyone interested in filmmaking, in part this is definitely listen up.
And basically, it's an organization that I believe is international. Maybe not. Maybe it's just the U.S.
Definitely national.
And they have this thing where for 48 hours, in different cities, different teams of filmmakers and actors will come together, and in 48 hours, from start to finish, they create a film. And it's very team-based, so a lot of times people will be doing multiple jobs, like producing and writing. A lot of times they'll all write it together. And we haven't done it ourselves, but we've met a lot of people that just really, really love this experience. It's a great way to get started because you don't need a lot of experience. And they have events for you to meet different teams that you might want to team up with, or you can have your own team. And what we did is they have a film festival. They show all the films, and then the audience favorites from all the different showings go on, and they have one showing where they do the awards, best film, best acting, and so we went to that. And that was great. It was right in Boston, Kendall Square Cinema.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and you meet people. We were sitting right next to a filmmaker who had one of his films in there, and you start talking, and you might get invited to be on their team next year or whatever. You're just meeting people and being involved in that, and that really, really helps.
Yeah, definitely a very easy, very fun way to network. But another good thing I should mention about that is that it also helps with time concerns, because it's one weekend, as opposed to most of the time trying to get involved in a film. It could be more of a long-term commitment.
Yeah, and if you can't do the one in your town, your city, they have them. Like here, there was Massachusetts and Rhode Island and New Hampshire, and they're actually different weekends. They're not all at the same exact time. Yeah, so that's a great way to get started. And think of anything else. If you can find anyone that would be willing to let you just shadow them, work for free, do whatever they want, or just follow them around, that's a great way to learn, whether it's an independent film producer, even a photographer, if you're interested in more cinematography. Even though it's not video, you can learn a lot from just how to set up shots and lighting.
And the important thing about all this, basically the message is volunteer, but make sure that when you volunteer, you're good. That you prove yourself to be reliable, that people are going to want to work with you again or suggest you to their friends. Because if you're not, then you just shot yourself in the foot. So only do this if you think you can really live up to it. And one way that might help with that is to learn beforehand, read books or find blogs like ours, or things like this, so that when you get there, you can do a good job.
There's some really, really great books. I've been reading a lot about Hollywood. There's one, it's really funny. Even if you aren't going to end up working in Hollywood, it's really funny and good advice for any job, especially when you're being an assistant. It's called the Hollywood Assistant's Guide, I believe. And it's written by this guy that was an assistant, and when he wrote it, I don't think he'd really made it at all. But now he runs the show How to Get Away with Murder, I think. It's a really popular show, so he's become very successful after doing all these long jobs working for producers, and it really gives you the ins and outs of Hollywood, and I really enjoyed that. What else? I can think of, there's one called Short Films by, who is that by? I think it's just called Short Films 101. There's also Hollywood 101 by the same guy that I liked.
There's one specific, actually some, I think, specifically for kids, teenagers,
Mm-hmm.
like teenagers pulling off your shorts.
No, that's not what it's called.
No,
it's called Filmmaking for Teens.
Okay, fine, Filmmaking for Teens, pulling off your shorts. There is pulling off your shorts somewhere in there.
That's a great book. That was like one of the first books I read on filmmaking, and
She was obsessed with it.
I was obsessed with it.
That was her Bible during Countdown.
When we were doing Countdown, it was our first film, so I was just like, "Kid solved this book." Like, okay, now we have to do this. Now we have to do this, and he says you have to have this.
Every meeting. Okay, so what should we do now? Let me look in the book.
Well, it's a good place to start.
But yeah, and then you see how good she is. So
it's great because if you've never done a film before and you want to produce or direct this film that you want to do professionally, so it's not just like one day you're filming, but you're holding auditions, you're rehearsing, you're finding locations. You want to make sure that goes as smoothly as you can, and you don't want to run into problems that you didn't. Well, you're always going to run into problems, but you don't want to run into things that you didn't know you had to do, basically. So reading these kind of books before you do that, or during, you start to realize, oh, I should make a shot list before filming, or oh, I need to do this, or I need to make location releases that need to be signed. There's a lot of legal stuff that's very complicated. So that would be a big one. So Filmmaking for Teens. It's by Troy Lanier and Clay Nichols, I believe. And that's a great book.
Yeah, basically minimize your problems, both in quantity and
Someone
size.
says, how do you get adults to take you seriously?
Some of them just never will, but be professional, Take yourself seriously. There's really nothing else you can do.
Take yourself and your work seriously. If you've done a film, I have trouble with this too, because I feel like I'm a kid and I'm just starting out. I should say, when I'm introducing myself, I'm an aspiring filmmaker. And then I think, well, no, I'm not. I actually did direct 2 films. Some adults haven't directed 2 films, so I'm not an aspiring filmmaker. I am a filmmaker. Take your work seriously, don't downplay your accomplishments. And if you take yourself seriously, then other people will too, and they'll be like, oh, that person's professional. Also, here's a good trick. We carry around business cards. They're very old school, but when you meet an adult and you pull out your business card and say, here's my card, they love it. They just love it. They just take you seriously.
The shock on some people's faces, like just see the eyebrows go up, like, business cards? What? This is like an actual thing? You mean?
Yeah, it's great. So I keep them. I have one right with my picture, and we have an FYP one, and so I always keep them with me. So wherever I am, if I meet someone who I want to make a contact with or is into film or acting, then I can pull out my card, and not only do they have my contact, but they are also a little impressed.
You can also add to that by having a website, but really it's one of those time things. People who will be converted, I know, when we were first starting out, and even a little into that, like even when we were filming Countdown, we'd already done all that work, we were actually filming, and very professionally, and yet I still had people, like adults would talk about it, and I'd hear them say to each other, like, oh yeah, they're making a movie. Or, if my mom would explain why I was busy today, she's like, well, she and her friends are making a movie, so she's busy that day. So it was just very, like, isn't it adorable? And now they don't do that anymore. Now it's, oh, well, you know who you should talk to? She's a filmmaker. So it took several years.
Yeah,
so if you're actually committed to this,
you do have to prove yourself a little bit, and to show that you're not just goofing around, I guess, and you actually have content that you've created, whatever that may be. That doesn't necessarily mean a film or video, even if it's a script you've written, or a blog you have. Ways to show that you're creating things, that you're active and you're doing things, because that's what people want. That's who people want to work with. That's who people want. They want, someone that's doing things, right? So yeah, that's really how to get adults to take you seriously.
And don't let them, don't let the fact that they're not taking you seriously get you down so you don't do things. Kind of, that's an easy trap to fall into. Eventually you feel like, well, nobody thinks I'm really doing this anyway, so I guess I just won't. And well then, duh, it's not going to happen if you just give up on it. So you have to be able to be a bit thick-skinned and say, you know what, it's too bad you don't believe in this because I really am doing it. And then you have several things to show for it, and then they go, wow, I didn't know kids could do that.
I'm taking a TV class this year in school, and I just finished the book A Short Screenplay by Dan Gerskis, and it was very helpful. Have you guys read that? Have you read it?
No,
I haven't read that. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
There's always great books. There's so many books on my reading list. It's crazy. I'm reading like 3, well, more like 5 at once. And also reading screenplays. So, yeah, I'll add that to my list, definitely. I just finished this one. It's called, oh, no, I can't remember. I'll think of it later. It's basically about the creation of DreamWorks with Steven Spielberg, David Geffen, and Jeffrey Katzenberg. It's very interesting. If you're interested in the filmmaking business and like the movie moguls and like how studios are created and how they run and produce movies, then you'd really like this book, and I will think of the name eventually.
Actually, I just realized while you're thinking about that, earlier we said once you've completed your script, you've got 3 options, and then we only gave you 2.
Oh yeah.
Because then we got distracted. So that was great. If anyone has anything else they want to bring up, please do. But the 3rd option is finding someone else to produce your script for you, whether that means submitting it to a production company, which could be, something small and local where you have much better odds, or maybe you're not interested in filmmaking but want your script to be, a real film, and maybe your friend is interested in filmmaking, or maybe an adult filmmaker somehow, or however it is, handing it off to someone else or submitting it to some kind of production company. Like us, actually.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, production companies are always looking for content. It doesn't probably make sense for you to go to like large production companies, but if you can make these connections in your local film industry, and if you can find really, really, really low budget, really independent, or people that are starting out, or film students out of film school that are looking for projects, these are the ways to, you can actually get your script in their hands, and they may read it. They have a much better odds of reading it, and so you just have better odds with that. I'm just looking up this book. So it's bugging me so much because I just finished it. It's going to be so obvious to me.
Probably.
When I read that.
So while Audrey is losing her mind trying to find this book, anything else anyone wants to bring up? Of course, I'm asking this, but I can't see anything.
I want to make a website, but what should I include in it? It really depends on what you do. Yeah, that's really what I can say. It would really depend on the person. If you've done any films, you're going to want to have you might want to just focus on that, or have like a film tab about you as a filmmaker, either what you've done or what inspires you, any experience you've had, with some clips, either of films that you've done or things that you've edited. Really, it's a place, sort of like a landing page about you, your experience, what you want to do, your work.
Anything relevant. You definitely want to have a bio of some kind if what it is that you're hoping to do includes screenwriting or any kind of writing, some writing samples, You could include a blog if you wanted to.
Any projects that you're working on or interested in, even if it's like community service and isn't necessarily involved in film, it still shows you as a person and things that you're passionate about, and I think that's important.
Yeah, I was gonna say, things that are indirectly relevant, like say that you want to be a director or some kind of leadership role on a film. Well, have you ever been a club president? Just, some kind of leadership role there. Or, whatever it is that you're doing, where have you used those skills before or proven those skills so that you can already show?
I remembered it. It's called The Men Who Would Be King, and I believe it's by Nicole Sperling. It's a really good book. It's long, but it's really cool. It's like the whole story of DreamWorks. And now it's funny because I wasn't really, either I wasn't alive or I was just really little and not paying attention to film, but like I'm not familiar with the movies, in the late 90s, which ones did well and which ones didn't, besides for like the big ones. So reading this, they sort of go behind the scenes of each movie that they did and what led up to that and how it played out, what went well and what didn't. So now I know, oh yeah, that movie was directed by this person, and that was the producer, and that did not do well at box office, or, that won this. And it helps to know people's names, to recognize, oh, this producer also did this movie, this writer also wrote this. And the more you watch movies, the more you read about these kind of things, the more you'll start picking up on that. Because that's very important in Hollywood.
Yeah, she's got all kinds of trivia. Actually, we needed you recently. We were playing, not a trivia game, but like this game, whatever.
Right.
And all of a sudden there's this question, name 3 movies that were nominated for an Oscar last year. And I'm like,
last year?
Yes. I was like,
does that mean 2015?
Well, that's what I wanted to know.
I could definitely do that.
Yeah, I was thinking, why isn't Audrey here?
What game was that?
It's called Joan Name It. It has nothing to do with film. It was just this one.
That's funny.
But I was thinking to myself, like, okay, I know this, except that I can't remember if this film was this year or last year, and I probably should.
Yeah, so if you have resumes, that's definitely a place for it.
That'd be a really good one.
And you can look at mine if you want to, audreylarson.com. I have a pretty simple one, and I just have like a films. I do freelance video editing, so that's another thing. Acting and writing, I think. But I think that's what's there, yeah. Basically, it's having a place and your contact, of course. I almost forgot the most important part. Having a place for people to go that has your contacts in the same place, or if you're on social media and you want to be promoting that as well. Contact, your bio, what you're passionate about, what you do, and you can put that on your business card so people will have a place to go and people can find you on the internet. It's basically the most important thing, Wouldn't worry too much about, if you don't have quite enough. A lot of people have very, very simple websites, and it's just them, So, yeah.
Yeah, don't be afraid to find little things that just make you sound better, like you're at a club, especially if you were, had a leadership role there, or just anything that makes you sound interesting or good.
Sorry. And I think I'm getting a camcorder next week.
Cool. Exciting.
Let us know if you need any tips, equipment-wise. We went through lots of decisions early on when we were deciding what kind of camera to buy. So it's always good before you buy a large piece of expensive equipment to consult anyone you can that would know. We were very fortunate to get some advice from a cinematographer that actually steered me in a different direction. I was going to one kind of camera, and he steered me away from that to a DSLR instead of a more, I guess, camcorder type camera. And then he also advised on what lens that I should get first, and I'm very happy with the choice we made. So I don't know what you mean by camcorder, but if it's up to you, do your research and consult people.
But either way, just having anything
Yeah,
will be
yeah, definitely.
definitely better to have something than nothing, even just the camera on your phone, although camcorder's probably better.
Yeah, true. And, we're still struggling with equipment is a difficult thing. With
Wicked
sound,
expensive.
sound is our biggest issue, and we're still trying to resolve that in the best ways. We borrowed all our lighting, but we own our camera.
Yeah, you may notice, if you've watched it, drawing inspiration is mostly silent. That was on purpose.
Right.
For multiple reasons, but part of what spawned the idea was we don't have sound.
Plus, we did sort of have a sound. We had a mic. But literally the first shot of the day, I tested it beforehand, tested it the night before, literally the first shot, it doesn't work. So
Which had sound in it, of course. I mean,
you never know what's going to happen. You really don't. And we were filming entirely in one day, so it's not like we could stop or wait at all.
Yeah, it was a very good thing we
So
decided to go mostly silent.
You have to make those decisions. Okay, what are we going to do? Are we going to spend our time trying to fix this, or are we just going to have to keep moving on? And
something like sound, that's an incredibly hard thing to do. Especially, if we were fortunate in that we'd already
I still don't
prepared
even know what
for-
happened. I have to figure out what. I don't know.
But yeah, if you're trying to make a film, be prepared for, I'd say hiccups, but things like that are more than hiccups. They're
Yeah.
big problems,
And,
and you have to be ready for them.
Also, if you're in a position of leadership, whether you're the director or the producer or the assistant director, people will come to you with a lot of different problems all at once. And some advice that I've gotten is, even if it doesn't matter, someone at it was a screenwriting panel, and one of them was a director's, and he said, they may come to you with questions like, which is better, the red cup or the blue cup? And you have you don't care at all. It doesn't matter what kind of cup it is, but just make a decision, because you're in charge and people are trusting you for these kinds of things. So, definitely to be a director, to be in that kind of position, you're going to have to making a lot of decisions, a lot of choices. Very quickly,
yeah,
putting out problems.
Basically, you have to act like a leader, both in terms of you having those skills of being able to make those split-second decisions, even when it really does matter. It's not just a red cup versus a blue cup. You still got to make a decision quick, and it's got to be a good decision, obviously, but then also, making people believe in you and actually feel like, yes, they are listening to a leader, not just being told whatever.
Right.
Because, just say the blue cup. Oh, definitely the blue cup.
Yes, the blue one. That's
the blue. Go. And then if the blue one smashes, you go, okay, the red one it is.
Yeah. And also, that also brings us to the point where it's really, really important to have other people helping you. You can write a novel on your own, you can write a screenplay on your own, but you cannot make a movie on your own. It's just not possible. Without our assistant director
we
running
got so
the shots,
lucky.
we would, I don't know what would have happened. Just because people that can take care of the little things so that you don't have to worry about it. If thinking back to drawing inspiration, everything was happening so quickly, and we have two directors. We both directed and produced, so it's not like it was just me. But I don't even know how the extras all found their way inside and were waiting and were costumed, and then suddenly they were just there, and everyone signed their releases, and that was the assistant director, and everyone got to make up, and it all happened. you know.
We definitely got
Because
really lucky.
we were focusing on setting up the set. We had to bring the props, or we had to set up the props and setting up the equipment and the lights and the monitor and making sure everybody was there, and someone had to be setting up the food because the food is the most important part of the film set. I will say it here. To
keep people well fed.
Always feed.
Well fed and happy.
Yeah.
Makes things much easier.
So finding people that, even if they have no experience in film, that's not necessarily what you need. What you need is someone who's a good experience taking charge, you know,
yeah,
who you think would be able to take on this sort of job, and who's good at fixing things, or
organized, you know, leadership qualities, but also very good at listening, because they need to be listening to you, but then totally able to take charge of the other people and the situation, so that, you know, blue cup versus red cup never even makes it to you. You know, like, it's not 3 different people coming to you with blue cup versus red cup. It's just the assistant director, hey, there's a question, there's, you know.
I love food, yes. We love food too.
Most people do.
Literally, I've seen so many things where it's like, what's the first question you ask on a film set? Where is the crafty, which is the craft services, which you should know that term because you'll need to know where the food is.
Yes, this is not arts and crafts. This is lunch.
Yeah, because, and if you, I forgot to mention, another great way to learn about the filmmaking process, or just to get involved, is being an extra, because that can get you on like a big budget Hollywood film or a TV show, which otherwise you would not be able to get on. I've tried. I've tried to get on, and if you're not at all in the production, they have security guards, and it's very hard to even get on as like a production assistant without experience. So, but extras, especially when you're young, you sign up through like, here we have Boston Casting, but they have lots of different casting agencies around, and they'll employ local extras, whether or not you're in New York or California. And this is a great way to get on set and see just how everything's running, you know, like, oh, what's that person's job, you know? Don't talk to the actors or the director, but, you know, just observe, you know, be there and be in the moment, and you just
get a sense.
Yeah, it just gives you a really great sense of this is what being on set feels like, you know.
A little less, you know, we were just having this discussion the other day about when you're an extra, you're in holding most of the time. You know, if you're not you're actively being filmed, then you're basically just sitting there. You're not sitting there on set.
But you're still observing what's happening on set.
Yeah, like, I'm not bashing it. It's a great thing to do. Just preparing you if you want to do this. It's like, you're not like on set the whole time. You're going to spend a lot of time just sitting in a chair.
When I mean on set, that means also waiting for 90% of the time, or, you know, eating lunch. Yeah, you're definitely not on camera, like on set, but you're in the general film set, you know. You're
in the general vicinity.
So yeah, that's great. And right now, there's so many opportunities because it used to be that like everything was filmed in Hollywood, in California, or maybe New York, but because of tax incentives, which means different states have different sort of deals that films can have if they decide to film there, because it can help the state's economy. So Massachusetts has one, and that has brought big movies here, which is great because it gives local actors, local crew jobs, and it's just really exciting. And we have the stars come here. We just visited the set of Ghostbusters. The new Ghostbusters was filming right in our hometown, like 5 minutes away. So we went out and looked at the set and couldn't get in, and but you know,
couldn't see too much, but yeah, that was cool.
They're really all around you, especially if you live in Georgia. The huge Atlanta is a really, really big film center. Louisiana, Chicago, Texas is big. New England, like Connecticut, um, just a lot of different states you can find stuff in. Um, Canada, actually. They like film things that are supposed to look like America, but they go to Canada. So it's funny. But yeah, you definitely don't have to be near Hollywood to be experiencing this stuff.
No,
And even if
definitely
it's not
not.
big Hollywood pictures, it might be independent productions.
Yeah, there are local filmmakers anywhere. So, in terms of getting experience, like we were talking about before, don't worry if you're not, near LA, or, any place like that, or New York or anything. People want to make films everywhere, so
Right,
even if
like,
they're not big budget. In fact, big budget, you're a lot less likely to be able to, actually get onto anything. But it's the small people who happen to live in wherever who can be like, oh, really? You'll do it? Oh, thank goodness.
Right, especially if they're just starting out.
Yeah, I mean, but the point is that, if you're willing to volunteer, people will be like, yes, because they have no money to pay you, so they're thrilled.
Right. So we should be wrapping up soon, just to make sure that we got those 3 points there. There are script contests. One way to, if we're talking about what to do with your script, our script contest.
Of course.
Yes, that's September 30th, and you can still submit, maximum 20 pages. Then there's producing it yourself, and there are a lot of resources out for you. There are a lot of books to read on this. And if it's possible, this is a great way to, if you're interested in filmmaking, or other aspects of it besides writing, this is also a great way to get experience. And then third, there's finding local small production companies to submit to, including us. Throughout the year, we take submissions. Besides, not affiliated with the contest, we always take submissions for films, and you can find those guidelines on our website, because we're always looking for new scripts, especially mostly actually all from kids.
Yeah, so, no, they can only be written by kids. So.
Yeah. So those are the. Oh wait, was that it? Yeah, those were the 3 points.
Yeah.
That we wanted to get across.
Contests, produce it yourself, or give it to somebody else to produce.
And we'll be figuring out what other things we're going to be doing throughout the year, what other things we can offer you. We're going to keep the Facebook group going, and what we might do is open it up to not just people that participate in Summer of Screenwriting, but kids who are interested in screenwriting or young filmmakers that would benefit from it, and try to get that going a little bit more as well. And I think mostly it's been a little bit slow because there just hasn't been that many people in it, but the more people you can get, just the better.
If you know
Facebook
anyone.
groups are. Yeah, so if you know anyone who's interested, you can, I'm not sure if you can add them, but I may have to change that setting. I think you can add them right on there, but I'll look into that. And yeah, so we'll be talking about future FYP programs, and we will keep you on the list. It's pretty much. I realized we had Summer of Screenwriting, and now we're sort of going into a fall of film, or fall of filmmaking. It's just so perfect.
That doesn't sound as good as it does at first. It's like the fall of filmmaking.
Right, that's true.
It's the fall of autumn.
Autumn of...
Next year we should have autumn of acting.
Autumn of acting, yeah.
Or autumn, I don't know, I guess we could have autumn of filmmaking, but that's just
not
as good. But the fall of anything is either way.
Filmmaking fall. No, it just doesn't have the same ring to it.
No.
Well.
Okay, well, I guess we can all fall.
So, yeah. And if you are local to us, then we'll be doing actual film productions that you can get involved in,
Yeah, we're a lot easier to get involved with because we actually want you.
Yeah, we want you to be a part of it in any way, really. Even if you're interested in being like associate producer, assistant director, we're also looking for higher positions. It's not just production assistants.
Yeah, we're a really unique opportunity to get just about as high up, you know, in filmmaking as is possible, you know, on a specific film, because we do film pretty professionally, but our goal is to get kids and, you know, people who've never had this experience before into those positions. Or even if you don't want to make that commitment and just want to be, you know, like a
Right.
you know, just volunteer for a day, then
And if
that's
you're
great.
not local, you know, we'll still be, make sure to follow us on social media. And also our blog. We'll hopefully be ramping that up a little bit more. And I'm thinking maybe we could do like a series. I've met a lot of young filmmakers like us, so those would be perfect to interview or to hear from.
Yes.
So yeah, keep looking at our blog, and I think you may have to, I think I may just have the Summer of Screenwriting list be sort of merged with the Fountain of Youth Productions general email list, so that you don't miss out on those kind of stuff.
Yeah, and you know, just because Summer of Screenwriting is ending doesn't mean we're not still available. So, you know, we may not have live streams specifically like this, or you sending out newsletters, but you can always reach out to us with any and all
Right, and
questions.
we'll probably be expanding the sort of, we're not going to be taking down the screenwriting resources, and we're going to be expanding that a little bit more. I'll probably put up the past newsletters and challenges from the program for people who weren't there, and maybe even start adding resources for other parts like filmmaking. So we have to think about that, but those are sort of our plans for this year.
Yeah, fall filmmaking.
Let's just go with that. Not the fall of filmmaking.
Yeah, that you have to say it right, you know, like the fall rather than the fall.
The decline of the modern film.
No. All right.
Okay, so have a great night, and we hope to, if you haven't already, we hope to see your submissions in the script contest.
Yeah.
Thanks everyone.
All
for
right.
hanging out.